He's the chief technology architect of the multinational company Red Hat and is touted as the resident expert in all things digital in the political party Progress Singapore Party, or PSP. He's a member of PSP's Tanjong Pagar GRC team. He's a retired NS major with the Singapore Civil Defence Force and served as Deputy Commander of Singapore Civil Defence Force's search and rescue operation called Operation Lionheart in Banda Aceh during the tsunami of 2004. Harish Pillay, welcome to Inconvenient Questions.
Thank you, Vishwa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
Yeah. Let's get cracking. Last month in June, you said, we have a lot of sacred cows that are not being addressed and we should get rid of them. HDB being one of them, CPF being another, and so on. Now, that's very much of a sweeping statement, isn't it, Harish? I mean, to get rid of HDB, to get rid of CPF, and then what? What do retirees do? I mean, the opposition parties or the alternative camp is constantly being accused of making sweeping statements and not coming up with any alternatives. So I'm giving you an opportunity now to clarify what you mean.
Well, thank you very much for that, Vishwa. I think when I made that statement that you just recounted is actually partial a statement that has got additional stuff at the back of it, which is we do have a lot of sacred cows, HDB, CPF, and all of this being part of that, the menagerie of animals in this particular case. But the point I'm trying to make was CPF is a very important aspect to retirement funds. CPF goes into feeding into HDB acquisition of homes and so on. Now, probably HDB acquisition of home, because of the pricing of the homes are so much higher, including also includes land costs. And on top of that, if this is meant to be a process where you can have asset enhancement with a 99-year lease, it is actually a messy component that really needs to be seriously relooked. So slashing the in this case, the sacred cows is not about HDB itself and not about CPF itself. It's how these things are being mingled together in creating a particular outcome which that actually completely disadvantages Singaporeans across the board, especially for that matter, the 99-year lease, the decreasing lease of HDB property, which really makes no sense. You cannot go on including additional enhancements of lifts and so on when the actual price of the property is decreasing because of the lease. If they say, all right, we're going to put in additional lifts, you're going to put in additional toilets and what have you, and they reset the entire lease of the building, that's a different conversation. But no, that is not being done. So we need to really look at all of this. And why? Because there isn't enough information that we need to work in to figure out what is the best way to do some of these aspects. The information that the government has and what we have as individuals, as citizens, as people who are going to be using our CPF to buy our HDB property, there is a huge disconnect in terms of.
So you're talking about. Are you talking about the lack of capability or lack of efficiency and effectiveness of the statutory boards, HDB, CPF, or are you talking about information asymmetry between the government and the people? What exactly are you talking about? You're conflating the two.
No, I'm not conflating the two. There is the efficiency of the organization's concern is fine. I have no issues with that because they have been doing this for long enough. They have a certain machinery in place, and I think that's fine. The biggest problem is the asymmetry of information. In order for me to figure out what it is that I need to be able to do from HDB perspective, from a CPF perspective, and so on and so forth, a lot of the information is absolutely not available at all. It is solely sitting in the realm of government. There is no opportunity for me to get to it so that I can do my analysis, and not only myself, anybody, get the economists in the world to have a look at it. There isn't that opportunity to do that because the government does not release any of those information. And when they do, it is a summarized form.
But wouldn't you say that? I mean, wouldn't you say that that's really quite a sweeping statement? Because do you think? I mean, first of all, do you think the vast majority of Singaporeans are really interested in minutiae, in so much of information? And I would say that a lot of Singaporeans do feel that there's sufficient information that's coming through. I mean, how much of information does one need to make considered decisions? How much?
Well, okay, it's a very nebulous area in terms of how to figure out how much is enough. It's very hard. part of the problem is this. What do I need to do to figure out how much I should be paying for my housing, how much I should be paying for any of the other things that I need when I retire, for example? I don't know. I don't have that kind of information. I may be able to figure out some of those things, but not everything. If I have more information, yes, not everybody can handle the additional information. That's perfectly correct. But it opens up opportunity for people who can help you to actually sit down and work out something that makes sense. Right now, that is completely left to government to figure out. So when you raise some questions about, the amount of money that the CPF has invested in through Temasek and related sovereign wealth funds, we don't have a sense of how much of the money is coming back from the investments that have been made, the income that has been earned, that can then essentially offset. Now, there are multiple parts of this equation. A lot of the information is there, but it is spread across multiple places that it is very difficult for the layperson, let alone an economist, to navigate, let alone an economist, let alone an accountant, a person who's trained. The information is essentially what has happened. The bulk of the information is out there, but it is hiding in plain sight. It's hiding in a manner that is very hard to figure it out.
So you're not suggesting, you're not saying, in so many words, you're not saying that the government is withholding information. You're saying that the government is perhaps not streamlining the flow of information. Am I correct?
That's exactly right. That's perfectly correct. That's I was pleasantly surprised or shockingly surprised, depending how you want to look at it. There is a document that is put out by the Accountant General's Office, which is essentially a kind of an audited document about all the income that the government has earned. This document is only available in a printed manner, and it is found in one place, which is at the National Library's reference section. You go there, you find every year's worth of information available, bound and kept on the shelves. You cannot check it out. You cannot sit down and bring it to the photocopy side of the library and make a copy of it and try and do some analysis. You cannot do it because they're restricted to how many copies you can make. First problem.
Do you have an idea? Do you have an idea why there's such a restriction?
Frankly, I have no idea, because what I did was I was trying to figure out why is this information not available as a downloadable set of data from the government website, from data.gov.sg, for example. When I queried with the respective government agency for that, they said this is only available in printed manner and it's not available for download. Why?
So Harish,
difficult.
Yeah. So let me ask you. Okay. So number one, I would say that the layman, the man on the street, may not really be overly bothered about how much of detailed information is necessary. But what you're saying is that if you are an analyst, an economist, if you are in a position, perhaps even a political party, such as PSP, if you want to come up with an alternative, a viable alternative to public policy, do you feel constrained as a political party because of the lack of access to information? Have you felt constrained? Has your party felt constrained?
Definitely. In one word, is definitely. Because when you try and ask for information, they will probably they have been pointing to, oh, this available on this particular website or another website. Some information is there. The information is not necessarily easily discernible by, and you can take it and analyze using a computer. You have to now transcribe from a PDF or something like that. It goes counter to everything that data.gov.sg is supposed to offer us as citizens, so that we can do with whoever I can work with to make sure that the data that I'm trying to analyze is analyzable. Right now, it is all over the place. For example, I want to look at how much of revenue and how much of expenditure the Public Utilities Board has done. That information is available in the PUB website, but then it's also available on another place which I can't easily get to because it's on a printed form and sitting inside the library, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So it is there, and yet it is not accessible. It is, to me, it's deliberately set up such that if you seriously want to do it, you have to spend so much effort going through and searching out and having an army of people to dig out information when this information is already there.
Okay, so let's take a step back and ask this, right? How critical going forward as a democracy as more and more people get get educated and want to make informed decisions, how important do you think how important thing that there should be, I mean, legislation? How important do you think there should be some form of legislation that makes it a requirement on the part of the government to ensure that information is made available, and number two, ensure that information is made available in a manner that's easily accessible and understood?
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I think the goals of data.gov.sg as a start, when at that time DPM Tharman announced it, I thought that was extremely laudable. He said every data should be out there to be downloaded, and I was very excited about it. I thought that's doing the right thing. Some of it has been done. A lot of it has not been done, and I'm not sure why that is the case. Now, what do I need? What do I want to see? I want to be able to legislate, for example, the opportunity to have a very simple Freedom of Information Act, so that I, as a citizen, can request for information from whichever government agency, and I should be able to get to the information. It should not be something that will only be, you essentially have a situation where government has the data and I don't have, and I have to work through and infer through multiple sources, and then I'm accused of either coming to a wrong conclusion because I got partial data here, a bit of other data there. So I should be able to get to a Freedom of Information Act as one of the things that I would love to see, because when you have that, you have now been empowered to request for information as and when you need, and the government cannot therefore deny you access to that.
Obviously, there would be situations for national security reasons, for example, where the government, I mean, we can't expect the government to give you all information, right?
Sure.
Some would be confidential.
That's not what I'm even asking. I'm asking for information that I can get to. If you have to redact it before it is released, and because it's national security or something of that nature, I have no issues with that. That's fine. But at least I know why it is the case, not a blanket no. And also not a blanket situation where it is hiding there. I have to go and dig. And if I miss a certain bit of data because I didn't find it, because it's hiding in some other document somewhere, some other website somewhere, this is just not acceptable. And on top of that, when I therefore make an analysis as an individual or as an analyst or as a political party, when you try and do any of these things and you're found to be wanting, the government can then accuse you of saying, oh, you are inaccurate, you are either haven't done your homework, or worst case, they throw the POFMA at you. Come on, this is just not the way you want to do. You want to digitalize and you want to create a smart nation. We jolly well act smart as well, because we are not acting smart, and that is really very painful to see. There are parts of what we could have done and we can do, we haven't done.
Why do you think, apart from it being relevant to parties, political parties and analysts, why do you think it is important as a nation, as a society, in a knowledge-based economy, for example? Why is it so important to have freer flow of information? Why is that so important?
Okay, these are some of the data points that would be good to have, because if I can figure out if there is a certain sequence of tenders being put up, for example, there's a tenders going to be done because there are some systems that are aging right now because needs to be replaced. Now, I could anticipate some of those things as a citizen. Maybe I can set up a company that can potentially participate in a tender. These are all information. When you digitalize and organize an entity, in this case the country's information, you then have the opportunity to be participating as almost an equal with everybody else. Right now, I am not an equal with everybody else. I am just a digit in this big scheme of things. I cannot participate. The reason why I say this is because my world experience in the last 20 to 25, 30 years in the technology space, in the specific area with open source technology and all that, the information is out there. There are tons of stuff out there. But because it's out there, I can now slice through and figure out what is it that makes sense to me, and then make considered opinion and make something work for myself as well as for everybody.
So is it your view? Yeah, is it your view, Harish? Is it your view that when you make information a lot more freer to access, that the notion of active citizenry, participatory population, all that becomes a reality because you now feel that you have the knowledge, you have the information, and therefore it prompts you to participate, perhaps by asking certain intelligent, informed questions. Exactly. Is that what you're referring to?
That is really where you can now have an engaged citizenry, because how can a citizen engage if they are not able to come to any kind of a reasonable conclusion, even if it is wrong, because they had no access to that bit of information, because they were denied, it made it so difficult to find. In today's context, in the industry, around the world, with the COVID-19, for example, what has happened here is every organization on the planet has now been seriously impacted in terms of what is it that they have to do in order to survive. And they have found they need to open up their system. They need to open up access to everything they need, because their employees and their associates are all over the place. They're not in one physical location. They have to work from home. That changes how you think and how you do stuff. Exactly the same thing we have been talking about for a long time. We, as in the tech community, that's how organizations should do it. So when I look at how government is doing, if you are saying we're going to fly the flag that says we are a smart nation, we can do all of these things, I'm not seeing it yet. I'm seeing half-hearted attempts. Some of it are very, very good stuff. I kudos to them. But there's tons of other places that we could do a lot better, a significant amount of stuff to show how things can be done. We can become the role model for the rest of the world.
Okay, we're running out of time, so I need to ask you this, right? Besides the legislation that we talked about, Freedom of Information Act, can you give an example of a specific action that the government can take to liberalize, to democratize the flow of information, and to provide greater access and easier navigation? Can you give a specific example based on best practice?
Yeah, okay. I mean, the one that I'll pick up is all of the data that comes out of government funding, government revenue, every single bit of it. There is, I mean, if it is all gone to the Auditor General and Accountant General and it's been already tested out and checked out and so on, every bit of data to be published out there. Because now we can have our own analysts, our own accountants, our own people who understand some of these things, sieve through, understand what has been done, and how that translates to benefits to Singaporeans as a whole. That is
as an expert, as an expert in the field of technology, right? Information technology. Would you say that digitalization and AI in the sphere of digitalization has actually made this a lot easier?
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't go so far as being easier. It just enables a different opportunity to collaborate. There were things that we couldn't do before that now, with some of the ideas within the AI space, now you can actually achieve. Because now you have the opportunity to go through just petabytes of data to do some form of analysis, which previously no human being can do on their own. This allows us to be complementing with the technology from AI systems and so on, to get a sense of what the data is, and then to make a qualified and fair assessment of what works and what does not work.
Okay. Any final words? If you would like to send a message to the Prime Minister, what would that be in this aspect?
I would tell to the Prime Minister, please default to open. Default to open up all the databases, open up stuff, keep the security stuff secure. I'm not asking any of those things, but everything else that is not security related, open it up, because Singaporeans want to participate. We can help you to do the job better. I have always felt that smart people are evenly distributed around the world. It's not in one place. We can actually help, because technology today can make that happen.
And I guess to some extent, to a good extent, it actually strengthens the position of the government, right? Because you reduce the possibility of speculation and misinformation when correct information is disseminated a lot more freely, right? On that note, yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, just saying, people say, oh, falsehoods get spread much quicker than what is truth. The reason for some of those things, the truth not going as fast enough, is because people can't get to the truth quick enough, because it is being sheltered, it's been kept separately, so that people will speculate. And when you speculate, it just goes like wildfire. If you can just release the stuff, it's get calmed down.
And I guess you wouldn't need POFMA.
You definitely won't need POFMA at all. That's something that we would like to see removed.
All right. Harish Pillay, all the best for the upcoming election. Thank you for joining us on Inconvenient Questions.
Thank you, Vishwa, for hosting. And I think it was a delightful time talking to you.
Thank you.